From Southern California, welcome to the Hour of Power with special guests F-16 fighter pilot Lieutenant Colonel Waldo Waldman, soloist Mandy Pinto, and a special message from Dr. Richard Mao, president of Fuller Seminary. Discover America's television church as the face and voice of positive Christianity to the world.
Our guest this morning is Lieutenant Colonel Waldo Waldman, this New York Times and Wall Street Journal best-selling author of the book Never Fly Solo. Will share the passion and courage it takes to be the wingman. From having been a claustrophobic and suffering from a fear of heights, Waldo became one of the most highly decorated fighter pilots in America. Please welcome with me this morning, Waldo Waldman. Waldo, hi.
Great to be here.
Thank you so much for coming today to bless us with your word. And the first thing as I'm reading your bio here is that you were claustrophobic and afraid of heights, and you went from there to become an F-16 fighter pilot. Is this? I got this right?
True story.
How did that happen?
Well, so many people think of fighter pilots as being fearless and, you know, bronze men and women, you know, nothing can stop us. But 3 years into my 11-year flying career, as I was living my dream of being this pilot and serving my country, I almost died in a scuba diving accident, 30 feet under the water. I had a panic attack, thought I was going to die. The worst.
Was that linked to your claustrophobia?
I always had, you know, I call it latent claustrophobia because it didn't really impact me until after that time I thought I was going to die.
Yeah, sure.
And when I was flying a few days later, going on a cross country, strapped into a plane, I was in the weather, couldn't see the sun, couldn't see the ground, and I had that same panic attack that I experienced a few days before scuba diving. And for the next 8 years of my 11-year flying career, every time I strapped into that plane to fly, that missile of fear was always being shot at me, and I had to overcome it.
Yeah, and that's amazing too, to go from such a fearful place to such a place that requires constant courage and focus, and it's touching. And so you went from then being a fighter pilot, and I imagine you learned an incredible amount of things in combat and all the other things that you're involved with, to becoming a person who motivates and encourages people with your message. How did that happen?
Well, I think when you think of adversity, it's common. Everyone in this room has to deal with it. We deal with it on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. It's part of life. But to have the passion, the drive, the thrill of excitement to live. Yep. I love flying planes more than I feared claustrophobia. And when we find out what we're passionate about, we have the motivation to take action. So that's why I stayed in flying fighters, because I loved it. And why I became a speaker is that I love lifting others up, because it inspires me to help others, give them wings to fly.
So that's such a great word. You said, I loved flying more than I was afraid of claustrophobia or heights. And so your passion, is that something that people can apply in their own lives? If you love something, you have passion, how do you, if I'm afraid of something but I want to do something, how do I take that step to?
If you can imagine being on when I was going through the academy, we had to jump off this 33-feet high diving board. And I didn't want to do it. I was always afraid of heights, but I jumped off that diving board because that's where my future was, okay? And if I didn't take that action, I wouldn't have graduated the academy. So I have a saying, love lifts and fear drags. We got to find out what it is that we love in our life, the passion, the thing that drives us. It's what gives us meaning in our mission. And when you tie into that, out of service, your love of God, your family, your friends. I have a 21-month-old son at home, and I love my son, I love my wife more than anything. I'll do anything for them. But when I was flying in combat, Bobby, what I used to do before I took off to get me fired up to take action was I'd look down at my checklist. There were two things there. One was a pair of silver angel wings, which reinforced my faith in God. And folks, you get close to God when you know that today may be the last day of your life, and you know that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And below that was a picture of my niece and nephew, those 2- and 5-year-old little buggers that I was going to get home and squeeze and give a hug and love. So they gave meaning to my mission.
Yeah.
And God was my wingman, they were my wingman. It was greater than my fear, and it got me into that cockpit to take off.
Oh, that's so great. And when you say lift and drag, I mean, I think of the engineering of flight. I mean, do you incorporate that? Because to fly, you need lift, drag, and thrust, right?
Absolutely. So if you think of what it takes to take this huge aircraft into the air, you need power, you need an engine, you need aerodynamics, but what happens in life is that it's a constant battle, a challenge for us to find what lifts us up and get rid of what drags us down, the weeds of our life, like you shared in a previous message. And we got to get rid of those weeds. We got to be with wingmen who lift us and encourage us, who hold us accountable, and we got to jettison the wing nuts. Right?
Yeah, sure.
The folks that are dragging us down. And it also has to do a lot with our self-discipline, who we are, how we show up, how we prepare. So it takes a lot of work. You know, I was thinking of the other day. On the 7th day, God rested, right? Yeah. And on the 6 other days, he worked his tail off.
Yeah.
And we have to work, we have to get up every day and do stuff with our lives to make a difference and grow.
Wow, that's great. And so now God has then taken you from this place where you share these experiences that you had from flying, and you use them to teach people about life or faith or business or whatever. And what kind of response are you getting? I mean, are people connecting with your message?
Well, I think anytime you talk from real experience, from your heart, people are going to resonate. There's too much baloney out there in the world and the economy.
Do you have like a favorite story or something that really stands out?
Well, I'll share a story with you that I think everyone in this audience and watching TV can relate to. And it relates to the wingman philosophy, because we never go to battle alone. We always have someone who we can turn to for help. And before I flew my combat missions, before I looked at that checklist and saw the Silver Angel wings and the picture of my niece and nephew, on the toughest of missions, Bobby, I'd pick up the phone and call my identical twin brother, Dave.
You have a twin?
Identical twin, the ultimate wingman, by the way.
Yeah.
And how blessed.
Does he fly?
He doesn't fly.
Okay.
The good-looking one always flies.
Yeah. Like Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, Top Gun, yeah, sure.
But he's a great human being, a father and a friend. But I would pick up the phone on those toughest of missions, because I couldn't share with my other buddies that I was afraid. You know, who wants to, I was a fighter pilot.
Yeah.
So I said, Dave, I don't know if I can do this. I'm freaking out. I don't know if I'm going to be able to take off. And he'd say, Rob, listen to me. You're my twin brother. You're an Air Force Academy grad. You can do this.
Yeah.
And he didn't say it, but what he meant was, I believe in you.
Yeah, that's right.
And he gave me the courage to say the 3 most important words in life, which are, I need help. He's a wingman. And a wingman is someone who you can turn to for help, who's going to encourage you, who's going to see the greatness in you that you may not see on your own.
See, that's a great message, too, because there are so many people, especially men, who are in roles like you're in, where you can't tell people that you're stressed out, breaking down, afraid, anxious, worried about failure. And what you're saying is you need to have someone you can go to say, I need help, someone to...
And exactly, Bobby.
How important is that? I mean,
it's everything, because we can't do it all on our own. Mm-hmm. Now, we have to be accountable. Like I said, the most important wingman there is at the end of the day is yourself, being prepared and skilled and have the integrity, those core values that we learn in the military that I think is important in business and life. But also, we're going to have bad days, bad weeks, bad years. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be able to jump off that diving board. We're not going to take off in our jet. But when we have somebody there to encourage us, it takes more courage to do that. Mm-hmm. It's not about fearlessness. It's about saying, I'm afraid, but I have somebody in my life that I can call on that will inspire me and help me take action. And more importantly, we have to be that type of wingman to others. Yeah, and I look in the audience, I see the wing moms and wing dads, the parents, the husbands and wives here together, you know. Yeah. We overcome challenges.
What do you say, though, to people, though, that, I mean, there's a lot of people that are watching this that are hurting, or, you know, they may not have anybody in their life they feel like they can go to. What should they do?
Give your wings away. Be that wing giver. If you haven't somebody in your life you can't turn to for help, go and volunteer. Serve it on a nonprofit. Join up at church. Give your wings away, and then suddenly those other peoples will appear. Elizabeth Dole, when she ran the Red Cross, said, I didn't wait for the rivers to flood before I built relationships. We have to do it now, while we're blessed now, so when the missiles of adversity come, we can have somebody there to help us out.
That's great. Thank you, Waldo. And if you're talking to not just the congregation here, but you're talking to millions of people around the world, if there was one thing, one message you could send to everyone listening, what would be that one thing?
To really give your wings away, to reach into the dungeon. When you see somebody that needs help, give of yourself. It's a sacrifice. It's going to take time, but when you do that, and lend your wings. That's how God will repay you and the world will repay you. And I have a foundation called the Wingman Foundation. I'm having an event in Atlanta, Georgia on November 15th, and we're going to recognize and reward and celebrate the Georgia veterans who've gone above and beyond. So if you're watching and are in Georgia, go to theultimatewingman.com. We're going to make a difference and celebrate those men and women who are the ultimate wingmen for our country. And we don't need a uniform to serve. We can do it in our communities every day.
Well, thank you, Waldo. You're teaching us what it means to give our wings away, and we want to thank you for giving your wings away by serving in our military and by now sharing your story to encourage and uplift people. You blessed us. Thank you so much, Waldo.
God bless you.
God bless you. Many blessings. Thank you.